Time. All right. So you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What do you see? Make sure you don't see my notes. Okay.
See
Everything's good.
you, Brandon Wood.
All right. That's good. All right. I'll make sure I'm seeing the right thing. All right. So I'll get started. Again, my name is Brandon Wood, and I started out in high school. I was with Northeast Georgia Association, moved on to Etowah Valley, and then from Etowah Valley went to the Mid South Conference and to the OVC Ohio Valley Conference, and then moved on to the American Athletic Conference, the AAC, and now in the Big 12. And so wanted to I got asked to get with you guys tonight, go over some mechanics and just some things to make you a better umpire, and that's what we're here for, and we all want to get better. I'm just passing on information that was given to me, and that's part of giving back to the game. So if you guys have any questions, like James said, let us know, and I'll be glad to answer them. If I don't have the answer for you, I'll get it. There's my email address. You can email me. But today we'll go over, pre-snap, pre-game stuff, spotting the ball, penalty enforcement, holding, second level blocks, and I got some clips that I want to show, some good and bad, just of myself, and I'm not afraid to show where I made mistakes at, because that helps you get better, helps me get better, and I want you guys to make the same mistake that I made. Oh, sorry about that.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
All right, let me see. Uh-oh. All right. So, and you guys are more than, hey, what are your goals for the season? And if you want to answer, you can answer. I'll leave it out there for a second if you don't have to. But going into a season, you always want to have goals. Whether if it's the playoffs or just make it to the to the bins, for the state championship game, or you just want to get a little bit better. What are some goals out there for some folks heading into the season? Wow. I'll tell you what some of my goals are. Somebody got something to say?
To get better than the year before.
There you go.
Get better at penalty enforcement.
Yep.
Getting better at spotting the ball.
Yep. Okay. Good. I mean, that's essentially that's pretty much what I have too. Better communication with my R on the result of the play. I always want to let my referee know what the result of the play was, even though I may not have a foul, but you let him know what happened during that play. So when we get all the information together, he already knows what's going on. Penalty enforcement is one I want to get better at. And also just being quick and efficient in transition. And we'll get into all that too here in a minute. But the hub is it all starts from the U. You want to be the best on the field. But it all starts from the middle of the field to you. We want to be the best team on the field, of course, out of the three, but it all starts with us. I mean, if we're down, everybody else is down. So we can't be down. We got to make sure that we have our referees back, everybody else is back. But really, we got to make our referee look good. And it all starts with us. And so we got to take control of the field, take control of situations, and make sure that we're the leaders on the field, even though the referee is the captain. But we need to make sure that we're holding up our end of the deal and make sure everybody's knowing what they're doing. All right, so just some pregame responsibilities. So for me, I'm always looking at film. So I know you guys have the capability as well to look at film. Hold on one second. Hold on one second, guys. What is going on? Dog it. Oops. Hold on. Y'all, what do y'all see?
The football field with the configuration of the officials.
All right. Yeah. That's what you need to see. Hold on. on my end, the Zoom is not looking right. Hold on one second. Sorry.
Now you got pregame responsibility.
Yep, that's right. All right. Hold on. Sorry about that. Some reason or another, I cannot see.
Hey, Brandon, you took it off of presentation mode.
Yeah, but I can't. Yeah, and I can't see.
Go to about the 5th or 6th tab. It says slideshow. Click on that.
No. I know what it is, but I just can't. I can't see. I can't see the Zoom, so I can't see with anybody, raising their hand or anything like that. All right, let me. All right, what about now? Presentation mode.
Yep, you're back. You're good.
Okay. All right. Anyway, so we want to review. I know we're coming up on the first game, so we don't have any, quote unquote game to review from last game. But what we can do, man, we're all getting assignments. We know who we got. I know things change, teams change from year to year. But a good thing, once you get your assignment for Friday night, go in the huddle or whatever you guys use to watch film and just go and watch previous year. For me, I like to go in and, of course, I'll watch both offensive lines and I watch D line. I just kind of watch, what I'm going to do in that core group. And of course, I watch kick plays and whatnot. You want to take weekly quizzes, rule quizzes. We're responsible for, penalty enforcement. So we need to know the rules and know how to apply the rules and really be, A players when it comes to, the rules. And I look, I understand we're not going to know everything. I get that. That's why it's a team. We're a crew and we're all got to come together. With all of us on the field, we should get it right. But it really falls on us to make sure we get it right. So we really got to know those rules and what to do. And so when usually the R send out, in most cases, crews, the R will send out, assignments. Make sure, whatever assignment that they send out, you show up prepared. Show up, have everything ready to go to present to the crew so you guys can have a, really good pregame and be ready to roll for that Friday night. Pack your bags, 2 nights before. That way, that Friday morning you get up, look at it again. Even for me, man, I'll pack. I usually have my stuff packed. So if I got a Saturday game and I fly out on Friday, by Wednesday, everything's packed. And Friday morning Thursday before I leave, I'm looking again. And even when I get to the airport, I'm like, oh man, I may open my luggage again and make sure I got everything. But you just want to make sure you triple check, before you leave the house to show up to the game site. One big thing too, make sure your shoes are clean. I know, maybe some people may think that's a small thing, but that's big, man. You never know who's watching you, because I'm pretty sure there's some guys on this call that are, looking to get to the next level. And one thing that, observers and people look at, even the coaches, they look at, how you carry yourself, how you dress. So one of the main things is making sure your uniform is nice and neat, tucked in, and your shoes are clean every game. You will never catch me going on the field, even a scrimmage. You won't catch me going on a scrimmage and my shoes are not clean. I learned it a long time ago to always come prepared and look good, because you never know who's watching. Game day, show up with enough time to go out and get warmed up. Just don't show up when they tell you to show up. Show up a little early so you can get there and plenty of time to get warmed up. Go to the field, get acclimated to the weather, because starting the season now, it's hot, and we already should be out there working out, getting acclimated to the heat. But you want to get out there enough time to warm up and be ready to roll. Right here I have be present during the coaches meeting. Just don't sit there just like a fly on the wall. Be present. Don't speak unless unless you have to. Go over before you guys go meet with the coaches. Go over what needs to be said with the referee. That way you're not stepping on his toes. And if he gives you something to say, be ready to talk about it. What's really important is to visit both centers of each team. Not only know their jersey number, but learn their name. So, for me, in my pregame studies, I learned, the centers. Of course, I know their number and I know their name. And so by the time game day shows up, I already know their name, and you can kind of build that that relationship real quick, and it means a lot to those guys too when you go up to them and you say their name. And that way, you go ahead and earn that trust. And when they're on your side, they're going to make sure that their other offensive linemen or other teammates are following the rules. So when something go down, that guy usually is going to be the one to come in and make sure everything is calm everything down and it makes your life so much easier when you can build that relationship with your centers. It's very important. Communicate with all big boys. That's who we're dealing with. We're dealing with D-line, O-linemen. 90% of the time, that's who we're dealing with. So, really communicate with those guys constantly communication, when I tell you constantly communicating with those guys. We'll go into preventive officiating. We'll go in there a little bit, but really just communication, your voice, if you can do that, it will make your life so much easier, during that game. And you want to make sure you spend time equally with both teams. You don't want to be on one side of the field the whole time because people will notice, and then people start to say stuff. So you want to make sure that you spend equal time with both teams. I know you guys are supposed to check the ball, so check the balls, make sure they got enough air in them, and of course go check any equipment that needs to be checked, cast, and all that kind of good stuff. Make sure everything is good. And put a smile on your face and be friendly. Don't be one of those guys that walking around looking all pissed off and nobody can approach you. Make conversation with folks, coaches, some of the players, and just be friendly to everybody. And you want to be that person that they love to see come up when you got to work the game. All right. So pre-snap reads, very, very important. Of course, we got to know down and distance. Now, setup. Typically, most guys work 8 to 10. I last year started working at 9 around the 4th game of the year. I had some stuff that was going on that I was too close to that, those crossing patterns. And so just with some film review and talking with my position coach and some other people, it was best I backed up 1 yard. And just that 1 yard helped me out a ton. And I can see a lot. So if you're working 8, or if you're working 7 and up, that's not a good place. You want to be 8 and 10, and then, of course, that's what the manual says 8. So I would say start out at 8 to 10 yards, from the line of scrimmage. We want to count 11, and one thing I would say is count towards the bench, so that from the defensive side. I actually started doing that last year, and I found that to be really, really helpful because let's just say you start counting from the offensive side, and you count, and then your numbers are off. And next thing you know, a guy comes on the field, or you may think you already have 11 and you really don't. And a guy comes on the field and that's your 12th guy or whatnot. So I think it's just best to start from the defensive side and count towards the bench. And that way you'll be able to capture everybody that's on the field and you'll know if somebody comes on, they're supposed to be on. You want to line up. You want to line up where you can see the ball. That's really, really important. I always tell guys to line up no further than the outside shoulder pads of the guard. So no matter what side it is, you don't want your inside shoulder to be outside of their outside shoulder pad of the guard. Because you want to be able to see the ball. You don't want to be lined up on the tackle if you can. I know linebackers are moving and whatnot, but you want to stay in that box between the guard, both guards' outside shoulder pad. That's where you want to be. Your inside shoulder pad should be touching their outside shoulder pad of the guard. So you can, of course, you can see the ball. We got to know the clock status, situational football. That helps you in, figuring out what's coming next. If it's under 2 minutes or under a minute, they hurry up football for to be a pass. Just situational football down a distance. And I know a lot of you guys have got a lot of football on your belt, so you can kind of, you can really figure out, what's going to come next. And that comes with, with studying film. So you study teams' tendencies, and that really helps you when it comes to, certain down and distance. Locate my anchor. Now, can anybody explain to me what an anchor is?
Is that where you talking about where you watched say like you got a nose guard lined up on your center that you talked about last year?
Yep. That's right. So what it is, and it's not necessarily a nose guard, but it's your closest threat to the ball. That's going to be your anchor, and that could change. So sometimes you'll have guys lined up in a even front. You may have 2-3 techniques, and it's like, okay, so who's my anchor? Well, in that situation, you got to let them let them declare. So what that means is once the ball snap, whoever comes in close to the ball, that's who's going to be your anchor. And then you got to have soft eyes. And what I mean by soft eyes, you got to be able to watch both guys, unless you see a double team, because we're not going to call holding on double team. So once you get a double team, you get off of that and get to that one-on-one block. Or if you have a linebacker coming up, you want to go ahead and get on him. So if you see a linebacker creeping up and the ball snap, he then become, even though you may have a shade and a 3-eye, that linebacker come creeping up, you want to be looking at him, because then he becomes your anchor. You're going to follow him, because he's going to be the one that's likely to be held. And I got some videos here that we'll see in a little bit, and so I'll give you a better visual of what I'm talking about for the folks who probably have never heard the term anchor. So that's what we want to make sure. That's one thing I really want to make sure you guys know. Once you leave this meeting, that you know what an anchor is, because that will make your life so much better, and it will really help you determine what's coming and take your eyes to where it needs to be. One thing too that I try to do is read offensive line stance. I know, at the level I'm at, I mean, a lot of these linemen are really good, and they'll be sitting light and they'll fire out. But a lot of times they are sitting heavy and they're firing out, or they're sitting light. It's a pass, or they kind of sitting back in their stance and they're about to pull. But again, that goes along with watching film and seeing what these guys are doing, and so you kind of know what's coming, and so you can be prepared, because there's certain things that we have to do. Once a lineman pulls, we got to really be able to transition when we need to, and we'll get into kind of that here in a minute too as well with you guys. Oh, and also one key thing is is have awareness of the free safety and safety. You kind of want to take a little quick look back, see where they're at, and a lot of times they'll say something to you, but you don't want to get in their way. They're coming up trying to make a play, and that's why we really want to, be still, at times, because the runner's coming at you. He's going to make a move off of you. No, don't move up. Don't move. He will make a move off of you. 9 times out of 10, he will move, because I've had it happen. You move, and then he moves, and then here comes the safety coming up your back, and it doesn't feel good. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have had that happen. All right, so this is a little illustration of our initial responsibilities. Of course, we got our center right here, and then we got our guard. So those are our initial responsibilities. Pushing that read. All right, spotting the ball. Are you guys familiar with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locations on the field?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Well, I can't see
Yes.
who all said yes, and I don't know who's not, who doesn't know. So I'll just kind of go over it. So the 1, we're starting from the press box side. That's on the hash. The 2 is the closest upright to the press box side, and the 3 is, of course, the middle of the goalpost. 4 is the opposite upright, and then 5 is the opposite hash. You always want to spot the ball on those numbers. Don't. I know a lot of times, he was down, right in between. No, just it makes your life so much easier. Just put on one of those numbers, and also, communicating with your referee. And I think you guys are majority of the time spot the ball, but say if somebody else spots it for you, and you can kind of coach them up on what these numbers mean. But you always want to put it on those numbers, unless there is a situation that very rarely happens that you can't. One thing too, we never want to let the ball hit the ground. I mean, I'm real big on that. I mean, it looks ugly when you throwing balls around and then they hit the ground. It looks very unprofessional. You want to, like I said, we want to be the best team on the field and the most professionals in the arena. So if you have to get closer, get closer. Tell your guys, get close, toss me the ball. We don't want balls flying everywhere and dropping balls. So get closer if you need to. Of course, pass plays, incomplete pass. You want to look at the chain and spot it off the chain. Don't guess. Anybody got any questions?
No, sir.
All right. Penalty enforcement. All right. So, that's like I said, that's where we come in at. That's our biggest thing, man, is enforcing these penalties. Um, you know, one thing I've noticed too, and I was guilty of it, when I was a high school official, young official, even young official in college. Sometimes we want to involve ourselves in the game. And I'll tell you, when I go into games, I go into each game not wanting to throw a flag. I don't want to throw a flag. I don't want to have any penalties if I can help it. That's what I go in the game in. I don't want to throw any penalties. So, we are there just to manage the game, make sure the flow is good, and because at my higher level, it's a show. We're not the show. The play, the teams are the show. We're just there to just to manage and make sure everything goes right. And when it comes to throwing flags, you got to determine what your threshold is. You establish that threshold early on. If you're throwing on a weak hold there's really nothing there, and you put a flag down, you set your threshold there. And so now, people are gonna be looking for to get that call the whole game. Something that's very, very marginal. We one thing I always tell the guys is we want to call train wrecks, not fender benders. That's huge. I mean, that will take you a long way. Um, and also too, I was taught a long time ago, when you put your flag on the ground, that's your integrity too. I mean, when your flag flies out, also that's your integrity. And I was working deep wing long ago in high school, and I had it was a pretty big game. Well, I had what I thought was a DPI, but really was nothing. And so put the flag down, go talk to the referee, and as I'm going to him, I'm like, oh man, I really don't like this call. I want to wave it off. And so I went to him and I said, hey, I want to wave this flag off. He's like, no, you're not waving it off. I was like, what you mean I can't wave it off? I said, I don't think there's nothing there. He said, well, if I wave this flag off, your credibility is going out the door. Like nobody's gonna believe anything you put down, and the coach's not gonna trust you. And yeah, it's a bad call, but you gotta live with it. You gotta eat it. And so, that always stuck with me. And so, yeah, do I make mistakes? Do I have some flags that I wish I can get back? Yeah, sure, still to this day. But we try to minimize them and really, like I said, make sure that set that threshold pretty high, so that way you're not dealing in the in the marginal stuff. But as far as penalty, you want to throw, blow, kill the clock. So, you throw your flag, you got your whistle, and you're killing the clock. So throw the flag, blow the whistle, kill the clock. All three. I know some guys have finger whistles. Me, I have mine. I have a lanyard. I have my whistle in the mouth and I spit it out. Once the ball is snapped, I wait about 1,001, almost 1,002, and I spit it out. Sometimes we'll have a late flag come in. Short wing come in. It's loud, and next thing he's coming in trying to stop the clock, and you got to have a whistle in your mouth so you can go in and really get to that center and shut the play down. We want to be involved in every penalty discussion when you know what's going on. And help each other out. Make sure we're giving the right information to the referee. If we have multiple flags on the same play, so say if I throw it, I got my guard, he jumped. Well, my short wing, he come in, he got a flag. You don't want to give your preliminary before you go and check what he got. So so when I have a flag, I'm stopping the clock. I'm coming in. I'm looking left and right. I'm trying to make sure if any of my short wings got anything. If they don't have anything, then I give a preliminary to the referee and get on the O2O and tell them what I got. But if you got two flags on the ground, they want to come together and really see what everybody got. Make sure we're on the same page. And if you got multiple fouls on the same play, make sure that penalty discussion is handled correctly and the right information is given so you can administer the foul correctly. Last thing we want to do is want to administer a foul and it be wrong and have to go back and change it. Got any questions? All right.
No, sir.
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. Continuing on with penalty enforcement. Now, are you guys familiar with the when, what, who, where, and how? So when we're talking to our referees or your crew. We want to see we want to make sure we give. Now, I know not in every game, the referee has a mic on and talking to the crowd, but we want to be able to give the referee the information exactly like how he's going to announce it. And that's what I've been working on, is really giving him the information to where when I give it to him, all he got to do is repeat it. But the when, what, who, where, and how. It's when did it happen? Was it during the kick, prior to the pass, before the snap, etc. The what is what happened. Was it a hold, false start? You don't have to give the category of what the hold is. Just tell them what happened. You got a false start, and then you want to who did it. You want the number of the person who has the foul, and then also the team, whether it's the kick team, offensive team, return team. You don't want to do colors. You don't want to do the name of the teams, but you want to do the offense, defense, that kind of deal. And then where are we going from? With the previous spot, dead ball, spot, etc. And then the how is that's the referee. Then the referee's he's gonna announce the enforcement and the preliminary to the crowd, and then you guys are off and running, and then you'll communicate with the wings. Penalty distance 1, 2, and 3. 1 being half the distance, 2 being 10, and then I'm sorry, half the distance. You half your arm, and then 1 is 5, 2 is 10, and 3 is 15. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hey, could you repeat the last thing when you said with your arm with the 1, 2, and 3, please?
Yeah. So there's when you got half the distance, what we do, so I'll pretty much go at my elbow and just like cut it like half. I think there's another one too that people do. But then we have spot penalties. So I'm looking at my forearm, whatever, and I'm like pointing to a spot on my arm, and that's a spot. And 1, you hold up a 1. That's for a 5-yard penalty. You're going 5 yards. 2 is 10 yards, going 10 yards, and then 3 is 15. Also, I didn't touch on it, but know where you're going before you go. So me, I count lines and ticks. So I'll look where I need to go. I'll look at the lines and ticks, and then I'll do the math in my head, and then I'll take off. I mean, it's not a race, but you want to be efficient, and so that's why you want to get to the information quick as possible, make sure it's right, and then get back. Go ahead and administer the penalty and have everything done by the time the referee's done. With what he got to do. We should always get it right. We want to look at our short wings, make sure we're all on the same page. So there's enough eyes on it to where we don't get it wrong, even though it still happens every now and then. It will get wrong. I had a brain fart last year on. We had a DPI that occurred on the 1 yard line, and we were on the I want to say 10 or 12. And I just had a brain fart, and I wasn't the only one that had a brain fart. Pretty much the whole crew, except our center judge, pretty much knew where it's supposed to go. And of course, we knew it. It doesn't go past 2-yard line. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's at the 1. It's a spot foul. We got it figured out before we snapped the ball, but it could have been really, really bad, and we all got downgraded on it. Once the grade came out, even though we didn't snap the ball, but still you can see that stuff on TV, and you don't want to have that happen. All right. So we go to holds. All right. So holding is a big one. I mean, it's one I think a lot of people, if you don't know what the definition is of a holding, you'll end up calling holding, just about every play. And you can have holding just about every play, but holding doesn't need to be called on every time you see it. You may see a hold, but you gotta ask yourself, did it have any effect on the play? And so, I'll jump down to, do you have material restriction? Do we have separations of colors? what does this restriction have any effect on the play? So those are some of the things that you gotta think about in your head. And on holds, I would advise to have slow flags. And I'm going to show some film here in a minute that if I would have been slower and really looked up and took my time, I wouldn't have had a flag down. But then there was times where I really slowed down and I looked at it. It's like, okay, well, this didn't have any effect on the play, and I let it go. But two, so I have does it fit in any of these categories? So when you're calling hold, so for us, when we have a penalty, we got to put it in a category. So I want you guys to have that same mindset when you're officiating the game. Okay, so if I call this hold right here, even though I don't have to necessarily do a report on it after the game, but just for me, I want to know, okay, if I got this hold, is it a hook is it a turn? Is it a takedown? Is it a snatch down? Is it a grab and restrict? If you don't have any of those three, you don't have anything. You really gotta focus on those when you look at holding and defensive holding, because you do have defensive holding too, and it's missed. And I'm going to show a clip where I missed a defensive holding. You'll have the D linemen that are holding on to the guards trying to get to the second level. That's defensive holding. So don't give the the D lineman I'm a former D lineman myself, and I held but don't give a D lineman a pass. We want to call on the offense. We got to call on defense too.
So how often are those defensive lineman holds called?
Say it again.
How often are those defensive lineman holds called?
Well, not very often, because, and I'll show you. I'm going to show some clips of it, because D linemen they can. Of course, they can use their hands and stuff, and they can separate and all that kind of good stuff, and it can kind of look like a hold. But how do you know a D lineman is holding? They pretty much will spin the guard. He is literally trying to avoid contact and get to the second level, and he is not letting go. And so they're pretty much almost dancing with each other, and now that he's holding them up. It's gonna stick out like a sore thumb when a D lineman is holding. It's not hard to determine. But I'm gonna show some clips and just kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. It doesn't happen very often. Doesn't get called very often. But when it happens, it's gonna stick out. Oh man, he's holding. And a lot of times too, I will say, if it's not really bad, but you can tell the guy is holding him up, I just go to him and like, hey man, look, it looked like you were holding him. And then of course the offensive lineman, he's gonna hear it, yeah, he's holding. Talk to him, try to prevent him, officiate, and be like, hey, look, you pretty close. Be careful. You gotta let him go. If he's trying to get off, you gotta let him go. You can't hold him up. So just try to prevent him officiating and from that standpoint. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on. All right, run plays. Our initial responsibility, both guards and center. We want to transition. Now, when I was putting this together, can somebody tell me? Okay, so it's at the second level block. So the second level block is when, of course, the guard or tackle or somebody's trying to get to linebacker and block at the second level. In high school, who is responsible for that block? I'm thinking it's the umpire, but can somebody say anything? You got anything different? Anybody one?
That's the umpire. We're expected to get those calls.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought. So yeah, so and we talk about our anchor and having soft eyes and going from double team block to a single block, it's kind of back and forth. But also we got to realize too, if your guard pulls, be on the lookout for somebody's coming to you. Somebody's coming to the second level. He's pulling. You're gonna get a chip, and then somebody's gonna show up at the second level. So you really want to be able to transition pretty quick, because, like I said, we're the only ones that can get it. Nobody else is gonna be able to make that call. And again, I got some plays that I'm gonna show. When it comes to getting things at the second level, stretch plays. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the banana technique, but it's really just opening up and just kind of banana peeling, and banana peeling out and being able to open up to the second level blocks. Like for me, I don't necessarily call it banana peeling, but I pivot. I open up, and I guess you can call it banana peel, but I open up to whatever side that the players pretty much lead me to, and I just one step move. And I didn't really touch on this a lot earlier, but we don't want to move a lot, because when you move, your eyes jump. So on a pass, and I'm about to go over there in a second. Some guys don't move on passes. Typically, I do move up, but I do have some clips where I didn't move. Matter of fact, let me just right here.
Brandon,
Same thing.
Brandon, I
Huh?
got a question. Is
Yep.
with the second level blocks and in the 6-man crew, yes, we definitely, and the 7-man crew, we definitely want the umpires to get those second level blocks. Is that where your depth is the key to picking up those second level blocks?
Sorry, repeat that last part of it with the
Is
7-man crew.
your depth where your
Depth?
position?
Yes. That is so. That's one factor too. Is because if you're too close, it's going to come right up on you. You're not going to see it, and then you're going to have to be moving out the way and whatnot. So that's why you want to be 8 to 10 yards back, because typically that block at the second level is going to happen about 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and so you're back 8 to 10 yards, so it's right in front of you. You're gonna be able to see it, and you're far enough away from them where you can determine whether or not what's going on with that action. That's why you don't want to be too close to the line of scrimmage, because those second level blocks are coming towards you, but they're far away where you can determine what's going on. Anybody else got anything else? All right, so pass plays kind of same as run. We're responsible for the both guards and center. Like I said earlier, step up to get a better look if you need to. I do step up. So if I'm at 9, I will step up about 3 yards, to get me right close enough, but not in the way most of the time of those crossing patterns. That's why I went back 1 yard to kind of back me up from there. But really, it's just it's all about how you feel, and sometimes you read past late and you want to step up, but if you step up really quick. And I think I have some clips to show me where I step up pretty quick and I sit. And another reason why you want to step up, because you'll have hands to the face. I feel like I can see hands to the face a little better. These in our league, these offensive linemen are really good at tricking you. Say a D lineman has his hand up, top of the shoulder pads, but then the lineman's act like he's in a helmet and he got his head all the way back, and that's not the case. Or you'll have, the guy up in the top of the shoulder pads and he's pushing up, and you have a fist in the shoulder pad, but you don't have a hand. So you don't want to be tricked on that. So you want to step up and kind of get a better look, know what's going on. On passes across the middle, who are low across the middle, we have to help out on that. We got to turn real quick and help out, across the middle on those low passes across the middle. Screen plays, I said find a soft spot. So, and what I mean by that is you want to step up and kind of get close to the line of scrimmage and look out. We're going to officiate that play from behind. So, you want to get up towards the line of scrimmage and then, look out, because look for those down the field blocks. So you want to get out in front of course, you want to be out in front of the runner. And so you can see those blocks that are happening on screens. All right. So that's what I had for the presentation. Now I got some clips I want to show. All right. Y'all still there?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
All right. I don't know what's going on with my Zoom. All right. Hold on. It's so weird. Oh, I know what the problem is. All right. All right. Now, oops. Give me 1 second. Move this over. Put this over here. All right. Now, share. All right. Y'all see this?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
All right, so we got 8 clips really. It's some reason it's got 2 right here. So I have some plays that I wanted to show some of my games. The first play right here is what I was talking about earlier on the screen and kind of how you want to play it and want to get up towards the line of scrimmage and look out. All right, so how to run it. This end zone view. All right. Oh, you know what? Let me go back. Let me go back. Sorry, I jumped the gun. Oops. Okay. All right. Before I start, okay. Shoot. Hold on. My mouse ain't working with me. Dog it. Come on. It's delayed. Sorry. All right. So, we talked earlier about your anchor. All right. So, what I mean by your anchor, this guy right here, you see my mouse? In this formation right here, this is my anchor, this is an easy one. I mean, he's right over the ball. And then before, this is when I was working 8 yards back. And I can see the ball. I can see the ball through his legs. So, I feel confident enough. I'm good where I'm at. So I don't necessarily have to move over. So ball snaps. All right, I read pass, and then I read screen, and you can see me jump up. Let me see a better camera angle. Let me look at this one. All right, yeah, right here. So I read pass, kind of slow with it. I read screen, and I jump up towards. See how close I am to the line of scrimmage, and I'm looking out. Because once I read screen, I want to be able to get up towards the line of scrimmage in a soft spot and look out. Because that way you wanna either you're looking for legal low blocks by the defense and offense, but usually it's defense, and you're looking for hook and turns. You're looking for hold, because you got a athletic guy on the outside, and you got an offensive lineman that's trying to make a block. He's not the most athletic person, so he could possibly hold. All right, and then they had a really good play on that. All right. Anyone got any questions? All right. Next play.
Hey, Brandon, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
I noticed you was in the linebacker position. Is it better to stay in that position versus standing upright?
It's preference. So for me, there's guys that stand up, and there's guys that like me that's kind of like in that linebacker stance. I feel like I'm more ready in that stance, and that's the stance I've always had. I've tried standing up, but I just feel like I'm ready to work. I am ready to work when I'm in that position. And every now and then, you'll have a fast-paced offense, and you get back and you can't. You have to stand up. You have to get ready to roll. But typically like on a pass, so like I'm still down, and I'm still even though I step up, I'm still at a certain level. Now I've had some talks with some people, some trainers, and like, well, they kind of want me to slowly raise and whatnot. And I'll tell you too. So you want to be a sponge, like I had mentioned earlier. I think you don't want to be the person that's like the smartest, the smartest in the room. You want to be somebody who's willing to learn. I think that's what's taken me a long way, is that I've always been willing to learn. But you gotta, of course, you gotta filter some of the information that you get. And not all information is good information, but I'm going to take any information that's going to make me better. Make me better as an official. So that's one thing too. I kind of started working on last year. It's kind of slowly rising a little bit, but on passes. But I'm still in that quote unquote linebacker position because I feel like I'm ready. But it's really just preference on how you feel. If you feel like you feel better standing up, you feel like you can see better standing up, then stand up. But yeah, again, it's really your preference.
All right, appreciate that.
Yep. All right, so this one is a defensive holding that I missed. Stop. Okay. All right. So here's your anchor, 92. And I think this is the one. No, he's not going to be the one to do it. Yeah. Anchor right here, 92. And then you got these two guys. But our anchor is right here. So that's what we're going to read off first. Look at him. So, and you can see it happens pretty early. And typically on a double team, that's when you will see it happen. But this guy, he's not trying to, he is not trying to make contact with 90. He's trying to get to 41. But what you see, I'm looking at 92. So he's my anchor. So I'm looking at him and then I'm transitioning over. Well, by the time I transition over, the hole's already happened. It happened real fast. You can tell. See, look how he turned him. That ain't normal. That guy's not trying to block him. He's being pulled into him. So, that's a defensive hold. And kind of my body language too is like, oh crap. But I couldn't guess. And by the time I got to it, it was kind of too late. But that's what a defensive holding looks like. All right.
Can you run that one more time, please?
Yes. You see him grab him? He grabbed him and turned him. And he prevented him from getting to the second level.
Okay, yes, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And it happens fast, though. Happens real fast.
With that formation and with your anchor being right there, and basically you got potentially 3 one-on-one blocks.
Yep.
How are you transitioning boom, boom, boom to get all 3 of those? Because it does happen very quick. And
it is. It's so I mentioned soft eyes. So you're not staying on too long because when the ball is snapped, you have 2 one-on-one blocks right here, and then of course you got the double. Well, you kind of transition to the double, you see it, and I can tell that just by thinking back on it, I felt like, okay, we're probably gonna have a double right here, and so I'm really gonna work these two. But you look at one, you look at the other one, then by the time you get to what double team, you see this guy, and then you're like, oh crap, I didn't see the whole play. You don't want to guess, and so you miss it. And you just, that's why, I go back and you watch film and you watch, you watch your opponent. I mean, you watch both teams that week. And so that prepares you for, when they get in this formation, okay, this is what you can expect. And you look at the defense and you see, oh, they got, these nose guards, these tackles that, they're trying to prevent, the guard from getting to the second level. But yeah, that's just a tough one. But you got to have soft eyes. You can't spend too much time on either guy. All right, let's see. So this one right here. Let me get some opinions on. Do you think it's a hold or not? And we're looking at number 58 right here, the center. So okay, so here's a good one. All right, so we got an even front, pretty much. I mean, they're even, kind of even front. So it's like, okay, who's your anchor? Well, now you got to let him declare. Once the ball snap, who goes in, he becomes your anchor. So right here, I mean, it happens fast. Happens really, really fast. And so you notice I'm off the ball with 0, slow off the ball. You kind of like, so you're looking at the ball. And so this guy is coming down right here. So then he becomes your anchor. And you watch him, and then you see this happen. So you got soft eyes, you glance over, you see plays away, and then you see this happen, and then you got to determine, was this enough? Should this have been called a hold or not? I mean, you also don't want to bail a guy out too. That's why, you got to be slow in processing everything. Take your time and really, 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, is it a hold? Is it a hold? Do I have material restriction? What category, that kind of deal. And it happens fast. You got to be able to determine that. Who would have called this a hold? Anybody?
I would chalk that up to being hard to see, but I see what you're saying, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
It looks like he just ran kind of like he went low into him, and the offensive lineman just fell on top of him. He just, I don't think he really pulled him down with it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't want to bail him out. I don't want to bail this D lineman out for having bad feet. He took a bad step. He was slow off the ball. And he was on, the lineman just took him where he wanted to go, or where he was going. So, I wasn't going to bail him out. And, you pass on that, and so, and this is what, it could be a write up, you write it up to to the grader and be like, hey, this is why I passed on it. This wasn't a hold because, I felt like he was going to the ground. And, he didn't have good feet. All right. So here's another one. And, we talk about, making the call, when the call is needed, and really having your eyes in the right place. And so here's a perfect example of, identifying your anchor and, letting your anchor take you to the play. So here's my anchor. See the anchor right here. Okay, so the anchor goes inside. So identify the anchor. Anchor goes inside. My eyes go with him. And as my eyes go, I see this chop block. That's why you want to, you want to identify your anchor, and because it can take you to some things. And this was a big play. This is 4th down, end of the game, and Kansas got the line of the game. But he got a chop block. But identifying the anchor, led me to, to what happened. I mean, this was a huge play. That's why it's very important to, get your eyes in the right places.
To finally have an opportunity.
Let's see. All right. We're going to. All right. So here's one where if you don't transition fast enough, and we talk about second level blocks, it can hurt you. So we're gonna look at number. Hold on. 54. It's 54. I think that's the right one. Yeah. All right, so we got our anchor right here. Looking at our anchor, identify anchor. I can see the ball, good position, see the ball. Make sure I have a clean snap. All right. I missed it. Anybody see it?
Snatch takedown by number 54.
Yep. I just missed it. I missed it because I didn't have soft enough eyes. I was sitting here, which shouldn't have happened. I was paying too much attention to this guy and missed it. I just missed it. You look up and then you see, you got a runner coming at you, and then you miss this snatch down. Hold on 1 second. Hold on, sorry. Sorry about that. My little man snuck in here. All right, so yeah, I just missed it. Snatch down. I mean, that is a, and you see, what he gained on that, and that one stuck with me for a while. Not during the game, but when I went back and looked at it, I was like, I beat myself up about it. But that's why you study film and you want to get better. And I'm showing y'all these clips because hey, I want you to make the same mistake I make. That's why I said you gotta have soft eyes, transition. And you look at my eyes right here, I'm not looking down the middle. And also too, you're looking at, okay, this linebacker, is he gonna come? I mean, there's a possibility that could happen too. But then by the time you get over to 54, it's too late. And I missed it.
So did that defensive lineman say anything to you about that play?
I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure he probably did. He probably wasn't too happy. I don't really remember him coming up to me or not. But I do remember. See, I remember the play because of course this is not something that that was the grader found and whatnot. I actually, because I don't know if you guys do this, keep notes, like get your notepad out. So if you feel like you missed something or you want to take a look at something, write it down in your pad. The time, the team in possession, that kind of deal, and go back and look at it. So that's what I did because I knew something wasn't right. So went back and looked at it. Sure enough, it's I missed it, bad, real bad. And of course, I got a downgrade for it too because they found it too. All right, so here is another. So here is a second level block. What time we got? 28. All right. All right. So we identify our anchors. All right. So we got guy kind of in a 2-eye. You got a guy in a 3. So this right here, 94. He is my anchor. He is my closest threat to the ball. But also you got to look at Levin here too. So Levin could become my guy. Just because he's close. He could come up. Let's see what happens. All right, he doesn't move. 94 is my guy. Well, then also you have guard Poole. All right. So Pools, and then check, you gotta go. Then you sorry, hold on 1 second. Guard Pools. Sorry about that. And then you have a hold at the second level. Right here. Oops. Wind it back. Let me get a better angle. Let's see camera one right here. Let's see this one. I didn't write the camera down. This may be a better angle right here. All right, 72, I think it was. Or no. Yeah, this guy. Tackle. 59. See that? That slight tug right there. He gets to the second level. And I'm the only one that can see that. Umpire is the only one that can see that. So it is really important, when we see a guy at the second level, we pick it up. And so when that happens is you leave what's going on the line of scrimmage because you have to get that second level block. Because if you don't get the second level block, this guy, he can run and run and run. And, you got a team to gain advantaged by this, this foul. I got any questions? Here's a better look right here. All right, see? I got a guy coming up to me. I'm going to pick him up. So I'm leaving everything that's going on the line of scrimmage. I'm leaving this alone. And so I'm picking up this right here. I am watching that. Watching what's going on right here. Because you got an athlete against a not so much athlete. And I think I say not so much athlete. I think this guy got drafted in the first round, this tackle right here. But you're going against one. He had bad feet, and see what happens. You got to hold. All right. Last one. Oh, no. I got two more. We're almost done, fellas. All right. So this is another reason why, you want to move close to the line of scrimmage. But on this particular play, I did not. I sat and didn't move on a pass. Let me go back. So we got our anchor. Identify your anchor. All right, so you got pass. Well, and I think one of the reasons why I didn't move because I didn't want my eyes to jump, and this thing was happening pretty quick. And I was having issues throughout the game with Colorado's D lineman hands being high and being close to the face mask. So when this happened, I mean, he immediately went pretty high. And so I knew if I moved, then my eyes were going to jump. And so I wasn't going to get a good look. So I just sat there and just watched him. I watched him the whole time. And by doing that too, I did not pay any attention to right here. And you got a little smoke on the other guy. But it's nothing really. I mean, but you do have two one-on-one blocks. And I couldn't, until I went back on film and watched it, I didn't know what happened, how the guy got on the ground. But I knew I had a hand in the face mask right here, and I stayed with it because, I mean, you had smoke, for a while, and sure enough, eventually they're going to do it. But typically, I would move up, and I think on this next play right here, you see me move up. But one thing, too, you will notice is that I didn't slow down enough on this play. I think if I slow down, now it was a hold. You'll see it's a hold, but you got to look at also where's the ball. So that's another thing too. You want to keep in mind. When you're looking at some of these holds, look at where the quarterback is. That's why you kind of want to take a glance up, and then if he's still in an area where the guy can make a play, then you want to call it. Well, right here, let's look at 88 and 51. So we got a snatch down. We got a snatch right here. He's down. All right. Well, look where my quarterback is. When the hold happens, the quarterback is not only is he pretty much out of the pocket, getting out of the pocket, he's also about to throw the ball. I think if I just would have waited just another half a second and kind of looked up, I wouldn't have threw on it. This one's kind of hard because I do like it, but then it's like so I got graded I got graded marginal. It wasn't incorrect because it was correct because it was a hold, but you got to look at where the quarterback was and then where the hold happened. So and I show this to say, just even though you may have a hold, but does it have any effect on the play? Is that guy gonna make the play? And I think once you determine that, then you can figure out whether or not you want to put your flag down or not. But that is all I had. Anybody got any questions?
Appreciate the job you done, Brando. That was a good job.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks, man. It's a good job.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the information.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. Like I said, I don't know if you guys got my email address. It was at the front, but it's bwood9724@gmail.com. If you got any plays you want me to look at, you got any questions, shoot me an email, man, and I'll be glad to help any way I can. I'm just passing off the information that was given to me, along my my route, and I want to make sure you guys, do a good job and be the best, umpires, best umpires in the nation. That's always been my goal, is to be not only the best umpire in my conference, but want to be the best umpire in the country. So, if I can help you guys get there, let me know.